All right, folks, little update on my setup here. I have my light with me for the Garmin, the ZumoXT. So what we're looking at here in the middle, I'm not sure exactly what that piece is, but I'll show you what I took off of that and what I'm going to use to replace it, and then show how we're going to get this thing set up. So I've tried a few other different things. You can see the screw out right right there. There's a screw sticking out right there, and that's where it holds the brake line on there, and there's a little piece down there that I have to come back up. I've got a little piece I'll show you that I was using right there, but it just wasn't grabbing very well, and it would kind of rock back and forth. So here, I'll get over here to all my bits and pieces. So here's the piece that I had in that hole down there, and it just because that little piece that had to go on behind it, that would kind of hold the brake line, this thing would not completely, it would get kind of tight, but it would move just a little bit, and of course as you're riding there's all kinds of vibration, and so it would just rock that thing back and forth and it would make it move. So I was like, all right, well, that's not a good fit. So I found this cool little contraption on Amazon, and I'll put a link to it. And so here's our stock bolt. So this is a stock bolt, so it's got this Torx head on it, and the stock bolt goes down into this thing, right? This bottom piece is already on the bike, right? So this is what's already on the bike right here. You got these two, this goes in here, this goes in here. This is that piece right here. So this is, I have to get my light back out, so I'm not going to do that, but this is what that hole that we were just looking at, that's what the stock configuration was. So you can buy this little ball head, and it goes on top of it, and then this goes in here, but the problem is now you've lost whatever that ends up being right there, you know, 1.5 inches or something like that off of the length, and then the bolt doesn't fit anymore. So I went over to Lowe's or Home Depot here, and I found it comes with a couple other bolts, but they're not even as long as that, so that's not going to work. But I found one that was 4.5 inches. The downside is it's got a bolt head on it, so it doesn't go all the way down in there, but it's the perfect length, so it'll grab the threads and you can tighten it down, and then it just needs to fit into this thing right here, right? So as long as I can fit that in and just kind of have this thing pointing out a little bit, it's going to be fine, right? So that's just kind of the basic setup. I'll put a link to all the bits and pieces. The cool thing about this I like is that it's got this it's kind of like a Torx, I guess, but it might slow somebody down a little bit versus just having a regular screwdriver thing. So you can see it's a little different. It's not quite the same. It's got a little circle in the middle of it. Same thing with this, and so it's kind of a unique tool. You have to make sure you keep it in your tool bag with you on the road, just in case you need to move it or take it off or something. But it maybe would keep somebody from messing with it for a little bit. But that's really going to be the setup right here. And so the next thing I'll show is everything all hooked back up, and show all the pieces for it. All right, so back to I showed the bits when it was kind of dark and I had to have a light. I decided to do this other part when it was a little bit lighter outside and you could actually see what was going on. But here's the kind of the final, and I'll put in the description, I'll put all the parts that I bought. But just for reference, I was talking about this. So I bought this little thing right here first, and I actually had it off of this screw hole here, and you can see that screw is holding the brake line right here. And so I put it off of this, and then I had a couple different, connectors like that. And then I was also using this kind of gooseneck thing, which was cool, and it was cool to get it into a good spot. But this is really secure. So you can see as I kind of flicked it, it doesn't really move. I mean, it's going to bounce a little bit, obviously. There's no way to stop that. But this thing was all over the place, and so it was just, moving around all the time. and I decided to go ahead and do something different. This, I had a hard time getting it to stay in a spot. So I was going to get some lock washers or something and try, but it would, no matter how hard I would kind of get it tightened down, it would always kind of move like this. So that ended up being a bust, and I ended up just kind of going with this setup here. And one of the other cool things that I like about this setup, and I use this thing here, and again, I'll put a link to it, but these two function as two completely different ends right here, whereas some of the other ones, they're both going to be open at the end like this. This, you can actually, as you loosen it up, you can rotate it. And so the problem comes when you get the ball right here and you want to be able to move it, you know, vertically like this. A lot of times the way you get it set up, this thing will be turned the other way, and the only way that you can move it is this way. You can't actually move it up and down. So this is pretty cool because you can put it on both sides, and depending on how the thing is set up, you can get it to work the way that you want it to. This thing does, so this thing has power to it. And then of course we had to run the power down here directly to the battery. So we kind of put all this stuff right over here. And it does have a USB connection to it. So, you know, on the bike here, on my Lowrider ST, I've got the USB that I can put into it, but it will not, it's just not enough power to keep it charged. I mean, it'll turn on, but it won't turn on to its full brightness unless you charge the thing. I don't know if you could see this when I had turned it on a minute ago. But you can see up here that it's pretty much fully charged, and so it'll get nice and bright. But if it's not charged when you're riding, especially during the day, it gets really dark, and this thing is just not enough power. It'll make it come on, but it's not enough power to keep it fully charged and to keep it bright all the time. And so this thing, as you turn the bike on and off, it'll automatically sense that the bike turned off, and it'll shut it off at the end of the ride, so you don't have to worry about like coming back here and clicking it. But the cool part is you can completely disconnect it. You can press this little button here and pop the thing out. And so if you have to go in for the night, obviously, or you're going someplace where you don't want to leave this thing sitting out, because it'd be very easy for somebody to steal, you can just press this button and take it off. And if it's fully charged, of course, you take it into a restaurant while you're eating. You can plan a route. You can do all this different stuff. I'll do a better demo of it later with the Tread app, the Garmin Tread app, and everything else. But the main thing I wanted to show is just kind of how I got this thing set up, and how nice and firm it is, and how well this particular setup works. So if you got a Garmin ZumoXT and you've got this the ability to do this, also down here too, eventually, I mean, I'll try to find a better screw that recedes down into here and maybe looks aesthetically a little bit better, but I don't really care. Nobody else is going to really care. Again, you just have to find one that's just a little bit longer than stock, because of course the stock one, usually the bolt would be, you know, down here, and so you basically have to compensate for the ball head here, and then how much it kind of sticks up here as well too. So you have to find a screw, but it's not too difficult to do that. And again, this one right here, I'll put this on too. This is a pretty cool one. I've got the screw, or the wrench put away, but it's got a special kind of, almost looks like a Torx, but it's a little bit different than that. So it makes it, if you have a bike where you can do two of these, it make it even pretty difficult for somebody to just even get this whole thing off of here. If somebody wanted to walk by and say they wanted to steal your ram mount or something like that, this would make it difficult to do that. So anyway, that's the setup. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm in the process of doing a Thundermax here, which I've had some problems with. I'm waiting for some RMA stuff to get here tomorrow. And when this whole thing is done, good or bad, I'm going to have another video on it. And I'll go through all the details of kind of what was going on with my bike, and hopefully it helps some other folks in the future. But anyway, that's it for this video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Happy to help. All the links to this stuff will be down in the description. Later.